Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another overly sarcastic productions reaction. And we got another history summarized video today about the Baghdad House of Wisdom. So funny thing, I had never heard of the Baghdad House of Wisdom before until I actually heard it as like one of the offhand lines in Bill Wirtz's History of the Entire World, I guess.
Here's all the wisdom in a house. It's the Baghdad House of Wisdom.
And from that, the only thing I know about it is that it's responsible for the
Islamic Golden Age.
So yeah, besides the fact that it's in Baghdad, and I'm guessing it's some sort of library or otherwise like a repository of knowledge, I don't actually know that much about it. I don't even know if it still exists, because it's an old place. You know, war generally can be kind of unfriendly. I mean, we all know what happened to the Library of Alexandria. So, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day, and with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
There are few things history enthusiasts find more captivating than a library. The lost libraries like Alexandria get all the attention and drama, yet hundreds of institutions remain comparatively unknown despite similarly monumental contributions to the sum of human learning. Among those countless libraries to exist throughout history, some survive while others are indeed lost, but the single most consequential of them all has to be the Baghdad House of Wisdom. Known in Arabic as the Bayt al-Hikmah, this sanctuary of scholarship was the beating heart of the Islamic Golden Age, a focal point of science, philosophy, math, and theology for an entire civil. I'm gonna need a broom for all these sweeping declarations I'm making here, but the point is that the House of Wisdom was a big freaking deal.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, granted, as he said, sweeping generalizations, but at the same time, I mean, you've seen what the internet has done. I mean, just having a central repository that anyone can go to look something up for information, I mean, that helps immensely for technological advancement and stuff like that.
Yet the intrigue continues because much like our favorite Alexandrian archive, Baghdad's great library is also lost. So we get to have some fun playing detective.
So I was
Where did
right.
the House of Wisdom come from? What inspired it? What
Where did it
knowledge
go?
was kept there? And who were its greatest minds? Then, critically, what the heck happened to it? And was it even real? Aha!
I'm sorry, what? So we're getting into territory that this place might have not even exist. Okay. I can honestly say I didn't see that one coming. Let's go.
So, to understand the House of Wisdom and appreciate its legacy across the Islamic world, let's do some history.
Woo!
The House of Wisdom,
You
as we
said the
understand it,
line!
came into full form around the late 700s AD, but it was not the first library in Muslim history. For context, after Islam swiftly spread out of Arabia in the mid-600s, the Umayyad dynasty was happily in charge of the largest empire yet known to history, with territory reaching from Visigothic Spain through Byzantine Egypt to Sasanian Persia. As such, two of the ancient world's most robust literary traditions fell right into the Umayyads' lap, and the natural thing to do was follow their lead and build a library for it. This wasn't a standalone institution, but rather a function of the Great Mosque in the capital city of Damascus. Much like medieval Christian monasteries were centers of scholarship, mosques were the natural venue for theological study and thus a handy place to store any books on other assorted topics. Of course, the Muslim ruling class spoke Arabic, while the locals spoke their native Latin, Greek, Coptic, Syriac, and Persian, so collecting all their texts required translating that into Arabic. But when we're dealing with the accumulated wisdom of several civilizations, that's a lot of work to just sit down and start doing.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, and specifically was done by hand, and not everybody was really even capable of doing it. And with that would just how much work it took to do all this stuff. For me, it's sort of the similar reason why I still refer to it as AD and BC. Not out of any disrespect to, other people's religions or anything like that, but just as a form of respect towards all the monks and stuff that came up and actually figured out the Gregorian calendar, which we're still using a form of today. These were holy men, mind you, not mathematicians or anything. Holy men that sat down and figured that every 4 years you have to add an extra year to the calendar to make sure things are working out, except if the year is ends in 2 zeros unless it's divisible by 200. And there are all these rules that I did not originally know for having how to figure out when a leap year is actually going to happen. And these were people that figured this out like hundreds of years ago, before even the invention of electricity was a thing. Like, I think for us, forgetting what it's called, but I think the only thing that we've really had to change with that whole system is that we figured out that every 100 years or so, we have to add like a leap second to the year as well. And again, we only figured that out with like computers and figuring out like the orbits of the world, and how like the Earth's rotation is slowly slowing down because of the moon and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's the common thought that, like, you know, people in the past were stupid. And I mean, you look outside, you can say the same thing about a lot of people today as well. But there were people, smart people back then, that figured this stuff out, wrote it down, and with the House of Wisdom, translating several different languages. I mean, I don't know if you had people doing multiple ones, or if you had like groups of people dedicated to one. I mean, that sounds more efficient than anything else. But still, it still remains. These were people whose entire day-to-day job was just taking texts from other cultures and like languages, copying it and like translating it word for word into their own by hand, all through memory. I mean, it's stuff like that. You gotta give them credit. Again, I'm not gonna go into the whole thing of people who think the pyramids were built by aliens or something like that. You gotta give the people of the past the respect they actually deserve, you know?
So the Umayyads only got so far in their pursuit of knowledge. They also only got so far in their pursuit of existing, as the Umayyad dynasty was soon toppled and replaced by the Abbasids after a revolution in the year 750, or counted another way, 132 years after the Hijra in the Islamic calendar.
Yeah, that's something else I forgot. I only learned this, well, relatively recently, not like yesterday or something, but like I didn't know that the Islamic calendar has their own calendar. Which, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, our calendar is roughly calculated about, like, the birth of Jesus. So, I guess that makes total sense.
This was no mere political switcheroo, as the transition to the new Abbasid Caliphate brought with it a huge shift in culture, away from the Mediterranean-facing Umayyad world and towards the Abbasids' eastward power base in Persia. Their new capital of Baghdad was founded a short ways up the Tigris River from the old Sasanian capital of Ctesiphon, and the city itself was built in the Persian fashion of round cities rather than the Greco-Roman grids. This all isn't to say that the Abbasid Caliphate is a secret bonus Persian empire, but that the Arab aristocracy of the Abbasid dynasty saw a lot of good ideas and talented people in the wider Islamic world, and made the conscious choice to seek out Persian influences for their new and still very malleable Muslim culture. That, of course, included Persian scholarly culture, with a tradition of grand imperial libraries and a multilingual populace, so the Abbasids were able to go all in on translations. The Umayyads had focused their efforts on practical texts like astronomy and medicine, but the Abbasid translation movement went for everything: literature and poetry, philosophy and theology, math, physics, astronomy and astrology, logic, alchemy, and the various fields these scholars would invent on their own, like cryptography and algebra.
Oh! We're talking about, like, all this stuff. I just remembered, like, the whole thing today is, like, the number 0, that comes from, like, Arabic numerals. Like, we use Arabic numerals today instead of, like, Roman numerals, which are, like, I, V, X, C, you know, all that sort of stuff. I can't remember whether I've said this in a video in the past, but I remember hearing this, and it's clicked and it suddenly made sense. That's the reason Roman numerals are the reason why there is no year 0 between a BC and AD. Because if you think about it, because like all BC is counting down until you hit AD, but if Roman numerals had no 0, you'd go from 1 BC to 1 AD. And I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, but I mean, that it is really funny, actually. Oh, I love it.
Among the most famous of the Abbasid translators was Hunayn ibn Ishaq, an historian Christian scholar responsible for translating Galen's medical text and the complete works of Hippocrates, the mathematics of Archimedes and Euclid, as well as Plato's Republic and most of Aristotle. A massive volume of work to undergo, but more than worth it, as the Caliphate paid Ibn Ishaq's team the weight of every text they translated in gold.
I just figured out, you take the book and you just write one letter per page, you end up with a book that's like 4 feet thick. It's like, oh yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. Come on, give me.
That hefty payday wasn't just for the fun of minting books worth of solid gold, but because putting the world's knowledge into the pan-imperial language of Arabic made it accessible for all scholars, who could then discuss it, comment on it, and create their own innovations on top of it. The polymath Al-Kindi translated huge volumes of Plato, Aristotle, and Plotinus, and went on to compose hundreds of original treatises on philosophy and natural science. Another scholar, Al-Khwarizmi, translated treatises on the
Again, these are all people I've never heard of before.
The Arabic system we all use
now. Not surprising.
And also created the entire field of algebra on the side. These are just two examples of how the Abbasid translation movement.
Thanks for that, by the way. That was my worst subject.
Served as the springboard for the ensuing golden age of medieval Muslim scholarship, speedrunning from here's our new religion to here's our world-changing cultural achievements in just over 2 centuries. A good time to be a nerd. Speaking of religion, I should specify that this all remained a fundamentally religious endeavor. Scholars saw no conflict in studying ancient philosophy or science alongside Muslim or Abrahamic theology. In the Abbasid world, theology was the study of God and his creations, so all scholarship was inherently conducted as an act of piety and worship. God, that is so f***ing cool.
Definitely a good way of looking at it. I wish more people had that kind of mindset today.
According to legend, Caliph al-Ma'mun had some doubts, but was assuaged after meeting Aristotle in a dream and hearing him say that it was all chill. Now, it was revealed to me in a dream is not the way we conduct our scholarship around here, but given the outcome, I'll accept it. Just as well, because al-Ma'mun became perhaps the biggest proponent of Baghdad's intellectual advancement, sourcing texts from far and wide and even demanding yearly manuscripts from the Byzantines as the terms of a peace treaty. But with all this wisdom flying...
You know, it's funny, usually when you think of, like, war reparations or, like, tributary, like, payments and stuff like that, you always think, like, gold, like, fine arts, you know, that sort of valuable stuff, but you never think, give me knowledge. Because actually thinking about it, that actually brings the one vassal type in Stellaris of the Scholarium into a whole new realm of focus for me right now.
Lying around getting translated and commented on and invented fresh off the quill, a key question to consider in the middle of all this is where's the House of Wisdom? The simple answer is not all in one place, then mostly in one place, then eventually not all in one place again.
Wonderful,
like the Great Mosque, the early practice was to hold theologically significant texts in mosques, but there were also private and semi-private libraries, booksellers who served as literary hubs in their community, as well as the Caliph's royal library. Sources aren't quite solid on the dates, but they seem to indicate Baghdad's House of Wisdom began as the personal library of either Caliph al-Mansur or maybe more likely Caliph Harun al-Rashid, and was later opened up to the public by al-Ma'mun in the early 800s. Persian sources note how this was reminiscent of the Sasanian library tradition, and its early name of Khizanat al-Hikmah, literally storehouse of wisdom, reflects this, but the raw scale of this scholarly culture was something only the Abbasids could accomplish. And Baghdad's position as the crossroads of the world meant al-Ma'mun had plenty of resources to spend on other associated projects, like building an astronomical observatory later in his reign. However, the distribution of intellectual activity across the city's libraries, mosques, and the House of Wisdom itself has led historians like Dimitri Gutas to question whether the House of Wisdom ever existed as a singular institution, or if it's simply a catch-all for the intellectual climate of Baghdad as a whole, like how Athens was the smart boy powerhouse of ancient Greece without any singular smarty pants palace. The difficulty in determining this lies in how Baghdad received the almighty Mongol smackdown of unexistification in 1258, when the city was nearly wiped off the face of the earth and every major Abbasid monument went kaplooey. If the House of Wisdom did exist, it didn't anymore, so our guesses as to what kind of space it was, or indeed if it was any one space at all, falls first on our textual sources. Thing is, barring a truly catastrophic misreading of early accounts, the evolution from royal library to public library still checks out, so the lingering question is where the House of Wisdom ends and the rest of Baghdad begins. Mention of the House of Wisdom by name drops off sharply after the death of al-Ma'mun when the following Caliph, al-Mutasim, moved his administration to the new city of Samarra. Perhaps the royal library went back to a private collection after al-Mutasim's reign, perhaps it remained open but was less uniquely prominent against the vibrant backdrop of other libraries, mosques, and discussion venues in the city. Working by written accounts alone, we'd be guessing forever. There is, however, a second piece of the puzzle that might help us understand Baghdad.
The ruins. Am I getting close there?
And that's everywhere else.
Oh,
See,
okay, never
Baghdad
mind.
got turbo squished by the Mongols, but other places didn't, so we can look to archaeological and architectural evidence across the Islamic world to see if there are any other spaces like the House of Wisdom, and then try to work backwards. As it happens, there are several. The same period saw the foundation of the world's first formal university in the Moroccan city of Fes, whose notable students included Moses Maimonides, Ibn Khaldun, and Pope Sylvester II? Wild.
Okay.
Created by the wealthy widow Fatima al-Fihri in 859, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin was a combination of a mosque and a school, named after her native city in Tunisia, which was a prominent center of Islamic scholarship in North Africa. Kairouan itself is famed for a great mosque from the early 800s. Built by the local Abbasid dynasty, it housed books on math, astronomy, and medicine in addition to Islamic theology and law.
I mean, even just looking at that is just plain stone. I personally don't know if this would have been like painted or something in the back, not in the background, back in the day. Proper speech, thank you. But I mean, I'm just looking at the pillars. I don't know whether that's just discoloration from people touching it or if it's actual like remnants of paint. I don't know. But I love architecture like this, where like you see like there are just so many like different designs and stuff like that. Like I look at some of the new houses being put up now, and they just look, it's a similar thing to how like every fast food place is redesigning to look basically the same, with the exception of having a different logo stitched on the side of the building. It is so boring and corporate and so I love buildings like this. If I ever have enough to actually like get a home, I'm getting like an old house that has like so much like flavor and like just feeling in it like this. Oh,
excitingly, it's still around, so we can see the prayer hall, courtyard,
very
and
nice.
minaret still beautifully standing today.
Also, just going back, and what is with the difference in like the color of stone in the pillars? Is this literally just, oh, the stone came from different places and they just decided to keep it like that for something, or did something actually like go on with it? That's really weird and cool.
Hey, permit me a brief foray into the thumbtacks and string zone, but I see no difficulty imagining a space like this in Baghdad deserving a name like House of Wisdom. Looking elsewhere along the Med, the great Iberian city of Cordoba boasted a grand library founded in the 800s and expanded in the 900s, and the Fatimid capital of Cairo saw Al-Azhar University plus its very own House of Wisdom open at the turn of the millennium. Perhaps the final feather in the OG House of Wisdom's cap was associating the patronage of knowledge with imperial legitimacy, making splendid centers of learning an essential feature for any aspiring Muslim state. Based as hell. The Baghdad House of Wisdom was not alone, but in many regards it is an outlier. And what I find most fascinating is how we learn more about it the farther afield we look. The books it collected, the translators who rendered them in elegant Arabic, the influence it had on the scholarly culture of the wider Islamic world,
I wish I could read that, though.
The endless impact of its ideas in the history of theology, philosophy, and science. Baghdad's House of Wisdom was almost certainly a physical space, but the tantalizing mystery around its specifics reveals a deeper truth, that houses alone don't create wisdom. People do. Golden Age Baghdad was a good time to be a nerd indeed.
Oh, love it.
Thank you for watching. I knew I was gonna...
Oh, God. I love stuff like this. History, I mean, I both love and hate history because everything, it's the whole like butterfly effect. Every little thing, every decision kind of has outward ripples. But at the same time, history is so complex. I hate it because it is so hard to get your head around sometimes. And imagine if they actually found like the remains of the Baghdad House of Wisdom or something like that, where they thought it was. Oh, that'd be cool. So yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.